Okay, kindergartners and families. Today's writing lesson is actually a very long one. It would be a good idea to break it up over some time, take breaks when you need them, and even do it over a couple of days. Bueno, padres y familias y niños, esta lección de escritura va a tomar mucho tiempo. Será buena idea tomar muchos descansos o quebrar la lección por varios días en vez de intentar hacerlo todo de una vez. Buena suerte. Good morning, kindergartners. In a few moments, we're going to read The Important Book. But before we get started on our new writing today, you're going to need to get some things ready. You don't have this book, I do, so I'll keep hold of this. I want you to also get your brainstorming from yesterday, where you held all of your ideas about what you wanted to write about. Also, get out your writing notebook. This is where you did your writing with Emily earlier this week about animals. So I'm going to pause, and I want you to go get those things. Go ahead. I'll just wait right here. Don't worry about me. Go. Okay, so I got out my writing that I did with Emily. I did it on a dry erase board because I don't have a lot of extra paper. So I wrote along just like you did, using your counters, pointing, moving those counters, and we wrote, elephants like to play in the mud. Every time you go to write, you should go back and reread the writing that you have already done because there might be more to add. I learned in an elephant book that elephants play in the mud and use that mud as sunscreen to protect their skin. If this was my writing in my writing notebook, I would write on here, they use mud as sunscreen. And I like to slap out those words on my knees too. So I would say, they use mud as sunscreen. Just like you did with Emily, you get your counters out and you count out each word. Here we go. They use mud as sunscreen. I know that's hard to see because they're yellow. They use mud as sunscreen. So if you have something else to add to your elephant writing, go ahead and pause and add to it. You can always go back and do it later, but there's no time like the present. You should do that right now. Don't worry, I'm super patient, especially when you hit pause, and I can just wait right here. I'll just wait right here in a really good waiting position. Here you go. Nice writing. Okay, kindergartners, now that you have finished your elephant writing, you should have your writing notebook, a pencil, and your brainstorming from yesterday. At least one page. Here was mine that I wrote about my dog Shadow. He's soft, black. He is a good boy. Shadow loves belly rubs. Shadow is 11 years old. So I'm going to keep that over to the side, but also keep that in my mind as I'm reading this book that Margaret Wise Brown wrote called The Important Book, because on each page she writes about something different, and I want to make my own important book starting with Shadow. So let's read this book, The Important Book, words by Margaret Wise Brown, pictures by Leonard Weisgard. The Important Book. And here she says, the important thing about glass is that you can see through it. The important thing about a spoon is that you eat with it. It's like a little shovel. You hold it in your hand. You can put it in your mouth. It isn't flat. It's hollow, and it spoons things up. But the important thing about a spoon is that you eat with it. I'm noticing she starts with the important thing about, and ends with, but the important thing about, That's something I'm going to keep in mind for my writing. I like how she starts and ends each page the same way. The important thing about a daisy is that it is white. It is yellow in the middle. It has long white petals, and bees sit on it. It has a ticklish smell. It grows in green fields, and there are always lots of daisies. But the important thing about a daisy is that it is white. She ended it the same way. She has a lot of it is, it has, it grows. That's something I can remember in my work. The important thing about rain is that it is wet. It falls out of the sky, and it sounds like rain, and makes things shiny, and it does not taste like anything, and is the color of air. But the important thing about rain is that it is wet. On this page, I'm noticing she says it falls out of the sky, and it, and. She added a lot of extra details using the word and. Interesting choice. The important thing about grass is that it is green. It grows and is tender with a sweet grassy smell. But the important thing about grass is that it is green. Oh, I love how she said a sweet grassy smell. That really helps me imagine what she's thinking about grass when she said it is tender. That's a great word to mean soft. The important thing about snow is that it is white. It is cold and light. It falls softly out of the sky. It is bright and the shape of tiny stars. And crystals. It is always cold, and it melts. But the important thing about the snow is that it is white. Now, if you think about snow, you might think something else is more important than it being white. You might think that it is always cold is important. That's okay. This is Margaret Wise Brown's book. Your book could write about snow and say totally different things. The important thing about an apple is that it is round. It is red. You bite it and it is white inside. And the juice splashes in your face. And it tastes like an apple. And it falls off a tree. But the important thing about an apple is that it is round. The important thing about the wind is that it blows. You can't see it, but you can feel it on your cheek and see it bend trees and blow hats away and sail boats. But the important thing about the wind is that it blows. Again, the important thing about the wind is that it blows, and at the end it says, but the important thing about the wind is that it blows. It's almost the exact same, just with the word but added at the beginning. I'm going to make sure to use that style in my writing. The important thing about the sky is that it is always there. It is true that it is blue and high and full of clouds and made of air. But the important thing about the sky is that it is always there. What a nice, simple drawing. The important thing about a shoe is that you put your foot in it. You walk in it, and you take it off at night, and it's warm when you take it off. But the important thing about a shoe is that you put your foot in it. The important thing about you is that you are you. It is true that you were a baby, and you grew, and now you are a child, and you will grow into a man or into a woman or whoever you want to be. But the important thing about you is that you are you. The end. Now I'm going to get a couple of things ready. You should get a couple of things ready too. You're going to use, we've mentioned this before, your bubble map from yesterday. You're going to need a pencil or a pen. You're also going to need some writing paper, and you can use your writing notebook if you have it, with space for a drawing and space for writing. So pause and get those things. It's a good idea to take a break right now. Será una buena idea tomar un descanso ahora. Okay, kindergartners, now we're coming to our writing time. In our writing steps, the first thing we do is we think and make a plan about what we're going to write about. Your plan is right here handy in your own bubble map. You're probably not going to be writing about shadow. We're all going to be writing about our own ideas, so our writing is going to look and sound different, and that's fantastic. So we think about it. Our next step is to draw. So you're going to draw a picture of whatever it is you are writing about. I took some time and drew a picture of shadow. It's not my best drawing ever, but I used the colors of shadow. You could also just do an outline if you don't have enough crayons around, or you can take as much time as you want to make a beautiful picture, leaving room on the bottom for your writing. So pause and draw your own picture. Now we're ready to start our writing. Just like Margaret Wise Brown, we're going to start and end with very similar sentences. We're going to start with the important thing about, and here I'm going to write the important thing about Shadow is that he is a good boy. That's going to be my first sentence. Your first sentence will not be about Shadow. Your first sentence will still start the important thing about whatever. So, while I'm writing, I'm going to remember some really important things. The first thing is my nice big finger spaces between my words. So when I write the first word, capital T-H-E, capital T-H-E, I'm going to put a nice big finger space before I write important. And I wrote that down for you so that you can copy it because it's got some tricky words in there. The important, the important. I have that nice big space now. If I put a space here, am I going to have enough room to write thing? Probably not. So I'm going to come back down to the next line. The important thing, and I'm going to continue writing. The important thing about Shadow is that he is a good boy. Every time I put a new word, I go back and I reread my sentence to make sure it's still saying what I want it to say. The important thing about, the important thing about Shadow. I bet I can fit that. Nice space, S-H-A. It's going to be tight, D-O-W. Close. The important thing about Shadow is, the important thing about Shadow is that, the important thing about Shadow is that he, the important thing about Shadow is that he is, it's a snap word. The important thing about Shadow is that he is another snap word. The important thing about Shadow is that he is a good. The important thing about Shadow is that he is a good boy. Now, I went through and wrote this pretty quickly because, well, I'm a grown-up and I know how to write all those words. It's going to take you longer, and that's okay. I'm going to leave this sentence starter up here so that when you pause, you can copy it down. And I want you to write your first sentence. We are sure doing a lot of pausing and work on your own today, aren't we? Well, you should have written your first sentence, just like Margaret Wise Brown. The important thing about blah, blah, blah is blah, blah, blah. I wrote, the important thing about Shadow is that he is a good boy. Now, look again at your bubble map and see if there are other details that you want to add. I went ahead and added some other sentences saying that he is black, Shadow is soft, and he loves belly rubs. He is 11. So I'll show you my writing. Then you go and write any other sentences that you want to write, and then we'll come back together for the last. So here's my beginning. The important thing about Shadow is that he is a good boy. He is black. Shadow is soft, and he loves belly rubs. He is 11. Go ahead and write any other sentences that you want about the topic that you're writing about. Then we're going to come back together and finish up just like Margaret Wise Brown finished all of her pages. See you in a second. Okay, kindergartners, if my writing was in a writing notebook, it would look like this. I wrote, the important thing about Shadow is that he is a good boy. And I remembered my period. Then I wrote my other sentences. He is black. Shadow is soft, and he loves belly rubs. He is 11. Now I'm back to writing the beginning idea again, just like Margaret Wise Brown. I'm going to write, but the important thing about Shadow is that he is a good boy. Just like I did with all of my other sentences, I'm going to write a word and then go back and reread it. Write the next word, go back and reread it. Write the next word, go back and reread it. So I want you, looking at this sentence starter down here, to write your last sentence. But the important thing about blah, 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 blah. Okay, take your time and go ahead and write that. Okay, I have finished my writing and hopefully you have too. I'm going to share this with you and I want you to share your own writing with your teachers. Here we go. The important thing about Shadow is that he is a good boy. He is black. Shadow is soft and he loves belly rubs. He is 11. But the important thing about Shadow is that he is a good boy. And since I had just one more word to fit in, I made it really small down here so I didn't have to use a whole other page. I'd love to see your writing too. I hope you had fun. And if you want to write some more, please never stop writing.